3 minutes, 40 seconds.
That's not a dramatic number. That's not a Hollywood countdown. That is the precise, calculated window of time that 4,700 American sailors had between the moment 32 supersonic missiles left the Iranian coastline and the moment those same missiles were supposed to tear the USS Theodore Roosevelt apart at the waterline. Iran had spent 20 years building toward this moment. 20 years of coastal fortifications, encrypted command networks, and layered anti-ship batteries designed for one singular purpose: to prove that American carriers were vulnerable, that American power had limits, that the Strait of Hormuz was their water. On this afternoon, they pulled the trigger. What happened in the next 32 minutes didn't just destroy 32 missiles, it destroyed a doctrine, and the world has never looked at the Persian Gulf the same way since.
The USS Theodore Roosevelt entered the Strait of Hormuz at 07:45 hours local time. Nuclear-powered, 95 aircraft on deck, a displacement of over 100,000 tons of sovereign American territory, cutting through the most strategically consequential 21 miles of water on the planet. Every day, 18% of the world's oil supply passes through this choke point. Saudi crude, Kuwaiti exports, UAE production, all of it funneled through a corridor so narrow that the northern shore, Iranian shore, is visible from the deck with the naked eye. Tehran has always known this. They didn't just fortify that coastline, they weaponized it. Over 2 decades, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps built what Western intelligence analysts classified as one of the most sophisticated asymmetric coastal defense networks in the world. Not designed to win a conventional naval war, Iran was never that delusional. Designed to impose unacceptable costs, to threaten the one thing that underwrites American power projection across the entire Indo-Pacific theater, the aircraft carrier. 5 warships moved in formation with Roosevelt through the strait. 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, each carrying the most advanced phased-array radar system afloat. 2 Ticonderoga-class cruisers, the dedicated air warfare commanders of the battle group. Together, they formed one of the most lethal integrated air defense networks ever assembled, a floating fortress of overlapping kill zones. But a fortress only holds if you know the attack is coming. At 11:15 a.m., Iranian coastal radar acquired the formation. Routine. Iran always tracks American ships through the strait. Captain James Chen, commanding officer of the Roosevelt, logged the contact. Routine harassment, standard posturing from a regime that had spent 2 decades issuing threats it had never backed with action. That assessment was about to be tested. At 13:52 hours, U.S. Signals Intelligence intercepted a burst of encrypted traffic. Multiple Revolutionary Guard units coordinating simultaneously. Transmissions bouncing between coastal battery command nodes and theater headquarters in Bandar Abbas. The analysts running the intercept had seen Iranian communications traffic hundreds of times before. One phrase stopped the room cold. Package delivery authorized for afternoon transit. That was not surveillance language. That was not harassment protocol. That was weapons release authorization. Every analyst in the room understood it in the same instant. Something was already in motion. At 14:18 hours, 7 Iranian coastal missile batteries stretched across 85 kilometers of shoreline went to full combat alert simultaneously. Targeting radars painting the American formation. Launch systems cycling to ready. The electronic signature across the entire electromagnetic spectrum was unambiguous. This wasn't posturing. This was a firing sequence. U.S. 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain pushed the warning across all tactical frequencies in real time. Captain Chen didn't deliberate. All ships, general quarters, air defense condition 1. This is not a drill. Iranian missiles may be incoming. Alarm klaxons tore through 5 warships at once. 4,700 sailors abandoned whatever they were doing and ran to damage control stations, to weapons consoles, to fire suppression positions. The entire battle group was transitioning to combat footing in under 90 seconds. 3 destroyers and 2 cruisers activated their SPY-1 phased array radar suites, systems capable of tracking hundreds of simultaneous contacts across a hemisphere of airspace, discriminating between threats with machine precision at the speed of light. The most powerful air defense network afloat was hunting.
At 14:47 hours, the order came through the Revolutionary Guard Command DAT. All coastal batteries target the carrier. Simultaneous launch on my mark. 32 C-802 anti-ship missiles erupted from 7 separate launch sites along the Iranian coastline. Each missile 715 kilograms, sea-skimming flight profile, terrain masking at wave-top level, supersonic terminal phase, Mach 0.9 at impact. Each warhead engineered to penetrate naval armor and detonate inside the hull. A saturation attack, 32 vectors, multiple approach angles, designed by doctrine to overwhelm any point defense system by sheer geometric impossibility. You cannot intercept everything coming from every direction at once. That was the theory. Flight time to the carrier, 3 minutes, 40 seconds. In the Iranian command bunker, officers watched their screens. They believed with genuine military logic behind that belief that they were about to change history. What they didn't know was that USS Port Royal's radar had already seen every single one of those missiles before the launch plumes had even dissipated. 12 seconds, that's all it took. Detection, classification, threat correlation, engagement authorization, automated. Vampire, multiple inbound anti-ship missiles, all units, engage. 3 minutes, 28 seconds to impact. The sky above the Persian Gulf filled with contrails as SM-2 Standard missiles raced outbound at Mach 3.5, interceptors meeting the incoming threat at 90 kilometers out. Long-range engagement, first layer. Iranian Missile 1, destroyed, fireball on the horizon. Then 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 minutes, 10 seconds. The second intercept layer engaged at 70 kilometers, SM-6 missiles threading the geometry, building a lethal web across the incoming wave. Missiles 6 through 12, destroyed. 20 missiles still screaming toward the Roosevelt at wave-top level. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. At 35 kilometers, the ESSM short-range interceptors engaged. Hyper-agile, designed for this exact geometry. Missiles 13 through 19 destroyed. 13 Iranian weapons still inbound. The math was getting tight. But what the Iranian commanders couldn't know, was that the Americans had already planned for saturation. The entire intercept sequence had been calculated to leave the final defensive layer with exactly the numbers it was designed to handle. At 20 kilometers, Phalanx CIWS systems across all 5 ships spooled up. 6-barreled 20mm rotary cannons, 4,500 rounds per minute. The sound is not a sound, it is a sensation, a subsonic tear in the air itself. Missiles 20 through 26 disintegrated in rapid succession. 6 missiles broke through, 4 kilometers out, 12 seconds from impact. USS Shiloh's final layer interceptors fired at point-blank range, engagement so close the radar tracks overlapped. Missiles 27 through 31 destroyed in under 4 seconds. 1 missile remained, one bearing directly for Roosevelt's flight deck, 7 seconds from killing hundreds of sailors and handing Iran the most strategically catastrophic American naval loss since Pearl Harbor. USS Port Royal's Phalanx locked. 280 rounds, 2.7 seconds. The last C-802 disintegrated 650 meters from the carrier's hull. Shrapnel hit the water. The Persian Gulf absorbed it. Captain Chen's voice came through the net. Measured, controlled, cold. Threat neutralized. All missiles destroyed. Roosevelt is secure. Now we respond.
While those missiles were still in the air, while Iranian commanders were watching their screens and calculating casualty projections, U.S. Central Command had already authorized the counterstrike. Not a proportional response. Total elimination. 112 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from 4 surface warships simultaneously. Vertical launch cells cycling in sequence. Each Tomahawk a 1,500-kilogram precision instrument traveling at 550 miles per hour to a GPS coordinate accurate to within 3 meters. USS Florida, an Ohio-class guided missile submarine running silent at depth 60 miles offshore, fired 72 Tomahawks in a sequenced underwater launch. Missiles broke surface. Engines ignited. The submarine returned to the deep without ever being detected. 2 B-1B Lancer bombers, each carrying 48 precision-guided munitions, received updated targeting packages over encrypted data link. You are cleared hot. Electronic warfare aircraft reached the Iranian coast first. Active jamming commenced across the full radar frequency spectrum. Iranian SAM systems attempted to lock incoming threats. Their screens showed static. Iran's air defenses went blind before they heard a single explosion. The first Tomahawks reached the coast 8 minutes after launch. All 7 coastal batteries that had fired on Roosevelt were struck simultaneously. Launch vehicles destroyed, command trailers obliterated, 20 years of coastal defense infrastructure erased in 75 seconds. Anti-radiation missiles rode Iranian radar emissions straight back to their source. 9 early warning stations along the strait exploded. Iran's eyes went dark. The Revolutionary Guard coastal defense bunker near Bandar Abbas, the headquarters that had issued the launch order, absorbed 11 Tomahawks. Bunker penetrated. The men who authorized the attack did not walk out. When the B-1Bs released their payloads, the Bandar Abbas Revolutionary Guard naval facility ceased to exist as a functional military installation. Headquarters building, barracks, pier infrastructure, 11 patrol boats sunk at their moorings. Ammunition storage facilities cooked off in chain reaction detonations. The fireballs were large enough to register on seismic sensors in Bahrain. thousands of pre-positioned anti-ship missiles gone. At 15:19 hours, the operation was complete. 32 minutes after Iran fired its first missile, the battle was over. Iran had launched 32 weapons. America had responded with 327. All 32 Iranian missiles destroyed. 0 hits, 0 casualties. The Roosevelt never slowed, never diverted. The carrier strike group completed its transit of the Strait of Hormuz on schedule. 17 Iranian military installations eliminated, 7 missile batteries obliterated, 9 radar stations destroyed, 5 command bunkers collapsed, 8 ammunition depots detonated. The chokepoint Iran had threatened to close, still open. Within 4 hours, global oil markets registered the engagement, not because the strait closed, it didn't, because every commodities trader on the planet ran the same calculations simultaneously. Iran just spent its entire coastal anti-ship doctrine in a single afternoon, and it killed nobody. In Beijing, the People's Liberation Army Navy was conducting its own after-action assessment. The saturation attack theory, the asymmetric missile swarm designed to defeat carrier-based air defenses, had just been empirically tested against the most capable air defense network afloat. The results were filed. The doctrine was revised. In Tehran, the silence from the Supreme Leader's office lasted 3 days. 32 missiles, 4,700 sailors, 3 minutes and 40 seconds. Iran pulled the trigger to prove American carriers were vulnerable. What they proved instead is something far more unsettling, and it has nothing to do with missiles or destroyers or phalanx cannons. It has to do with what happens when a nation mistakes American patience for American weakness. The question now isn't whether the United States can defend a carrier in the Strait of Hormuz. The question is, after watching this, who still thinks they can?